Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today
Yep.
we're heading to the cricket pitch, going to explore the life and legend of Don Bradman.
The Don.
You guys sent in some excerpts from his Wikipedia page.
Great starting point.
Yeah, for sure. But let's be real, you don't hit up the deep dive if you just want the basic facts, right?
Exactly. Everyone knows about Bradman. The 99.94 average. Practically mythical, right?
Yeah.
But what we're really interested in is the person behind those numbers.
Right. Like, what made this guy tick?
Yeah, what were his challenges? How did he become more than just a cricketer, More than just a name in the record books?
Okay, so picture this. Rural Australia.
Outback.
Not exactly. Like a hotbed for global sporting icons.
Not at first glance, no.
Right. But this is where Bradman's story starts. Not in some fancy academy or anything.
Nope.
He's honing his skills in a way that honestly sounds made up.
It's almost too perfect, isn't it?
Yeah?
This young kid practicing by himself using a cricket stump as a bat
What?
and a golf ball. It's true. It's one of those details that just sticks with you. Speaks to a certain level of dedication, resourcefulness that you just can't teach.
It's like built in.
Absolutely. That passion, that drive, it was there from the very beginning.
And it's translated to results fast.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking first-class debut at 19, test debut soon after. This isn't some slow climb to the top.
Nope. Bradman was a phenomenon right out of the gate.
Like instant legend status.
Pretty much. And then, 1930, the Ashes Tour of England. This is where he truly exploded onto the world stage.
The Ashes, okay, for those who maybe aren't cricket experts,
Right.
what's the big
It's
deal?
rivalry, right?
Yeah.
England versus Australia. Historic, huge deal. And Bradman, he racked up 974 runs in that series. Averaged 139.14. Just to put that in perspective. No one has even come close to those numbers since.
So it's not just like good.
No.
It's like superhuman.
Basic.
All right, so we've got this picture of almost unbelievable talent. But here's where it gets interesting, right? Amidst this crazy success, Bradman was, reportedly, super uncomfortable with the fame. The intense focus on him as an individual.
The reluctant hero, some called him.
Wow. That's got to be a weird feeling. To be that good, but also kind of want to shy away from the spotlight.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity. This constant tension between his drive to excel and a part of him that maybe craved a simpler life. Away from the pressure, the expectations, it's a thread that runs throughout his entire career.
And then, Bodyline.
Ah, yeah.
A chapter in cricket history as legendary, maybe even more so, than Bradman himself. Can you break it down for us? What was this tactic?
Sure. So Bodyline was this controversial bowling strategy, cooked up by the English team specifically to, well, stop Bradman.
Target him.
Basically. They bowled these really fast, short-pitch deliveries aimed right at the batsman's body. Super dangerous.
So they were like, all right, Mr. 99.94, let's see how you handle this.
Yeah, something like that. And it's crucial to understand this. Bodyline was a direct response to Bradman's dominance, acknowledging his extraordinary ability, but also kind of exposing a vulnerability. His average dipped during that series.
Still good though, right?
Oh, for sure, by any normal standards, but not Bradman level, and that's what makes it fascinating.
Right, like if it affected him that much.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really interesting, because Bodyline might have actually changed Bradman's batting forever, forced him to become more cautious.
Added a layer of defense to his natural attacking style.
It's like almost a superhero origin story.
I like that.
The hero faces this impossible challenge, adapts, but maybe loses a bit of that initial flair.
It makes you wonder, did Bodyline ultimately make him a better batsman by forcing him to evolve?
Or did it take away some of that raw brilliance that defined his early years?
Big questions, and this is only the beginning. We haven't even gotten into his captaincy, the controversies, near-death experiences.
Buckle up, folks. This deep dive is about to get even wilder.
It's fascinating, really. Bradman wasn't content to just play the game.
Right.
He became captain, selector, administrator.
Wow.
Like he wanted to shape the entire sport.
Yeah, that makes sense, given his drive and strategic mind. Like, once you've mastered playing the game, why not try to master the system around it, too?
Exactly. And that's where his move to South Australia comes in.
Okay.
It wasn't just a change of scenery.
No.
The sources suggest the South Australian Cricket Association, they had ulterior motives, hoping to tap into Bradman's leadership to elevate their team.
Right. But, wherever there's power, there's politics.
Always.
This move, did it set the stage for some internal struggles down the line.
Oh, absolutely. So we've got Bradman in South Australia ready for this new chapter. And then we have the 1936-37 Ashes series. Talk about an underdog story. Australia loses the first 2 test matches. Things are looking grim.
Oh, no.
But then, boom, Bradman unleashes one of the most legendary innings of all time, 270 runs at Melbourne.
I'm guessing it wasn't just about the sheer number of runs, but the context, like the pressure he was under.
You got it. Bradman was battling illness that whole match, and the pressure to turn things around for the team, immense. But he digs deep, plays with incredible patience, tactical awareness, and single-handedly shifts the momentum of the series.
The sick, determined captain leads his team to victory. It's a classic story for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this wasn't a one-off.
Oh, not at all. Dominance continued in the 1938 tour, broke more records, but here's where we start to see a more human side to the seemingly invincible Don.
Okay.
He suffers a severe ankle injury, endures the heaviest defeat of his career. Good reminder that even legends face setbacks.
They're not robots.
Nope. And then there's this crazy near-death experience after he develops appendicitis, puts things into perspective.
For sure.
Here's this man who seemed superhuman on the field,
Yeah.
yet brought low by a sudden life-threatening illness.
Wow.
Just drives home the point that he wasn't a run-scoring machine. He was vulnerable, just like anyone else.
Right. Makes his achievements even more impressive, really.
Exactly.
And then the war years. Everything on hold, including Bradman's cricket career. But it's interesting. He actually tried to enlist.
He did.
Despite having physical limitations, things most people wouldn't associate with a top athlete.
The irony is pretty striking, isn't it?
Totally.
This man who dominated on the cricket field,
Yeah.
had poor eyesight, history of muscular problems, adds another layer of complexity to his legend. It suggests a resilience that went far beyond just physical strength.
Absolutely. And there's this lesser-known aspect to this period too, right?
Oh, yeah.
A financial crisis that actually impacts Bradman's reputation.
Right. His involvement with a stockbroking firm that collapsed due to fraud left a stain on his name. Good reminder that even heroes can get caught up in events beyond their control, events that can really impact how they're perceived, humanizes them.
This sets the stage for what many consider the final act, the 1946 Ashes series.
Here's where we see, to quote Dick Whitington, the ghost of a once great cricketer. Bradman was older, carrying lingering pain from those injuries,
Right.
and a lot of doubts swirling about whether he could still perform. Classic comeback narrative.
Oh, I love a good comeback story. And
Uh,
did he deliver?
Oh, he did. Another Ashes victory, another record-breaking run. But this chapter is more than just personal triumph, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. What else is going on?
The 1948 tour with the legendary Invincibles team, that was perhaps Bradman's most satisfying achievement.
Also?
It wasn't just about him anymore, it was about the team he'd built, the legacy he was creating.
Which makes that final innings all the more interesting. That famous duck. You know, a score of 0 in his last test match. Must have been bittersweet.
What's often forgotten is there were no tears in Bradman's eyes, despite what some stories say. He faced that moment with the same stoic determination that had defined his entire career. But the irony is beautiful, isn't it? The most iconic number in cricket associated with Bradman. It isn't a perfect 100, it's 99.94.
Powerful reminder that greatness isn't always about achieving absolute perfection. It's about that relentless pursuit of excellence.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. What's the main takeaway for our listeners?
What's remarkable is how Bradman's story continues to fascinate, to inspire even decades after his retirement, his passing. It speaks to the power of human achievement, but also to the complexities, the contradictions that make us who we are. He wasn't just a collection of stats. He was a real person. Flaws, strengths, triumphs, failures, all of it.
All right, before we wrap up this section, I gotta ask. Imagine Bradman playing in the modern era.
Oh, wow.
Would he still dominate?
Tough question.
How would his personality, that reluctant hero persona, handle today's media scrutiny, the insane fan culture?
Fun what-if scenario, isn't it? And honestly, I don't have the answers. But that's part of what makes exploring a figure like Bradman so interesting. The questions he raises are just as fascinating as the facts themselves. We've only scratched the surface here, using those Wikipedia excerpts as a jumping-off point. There's a whole universe of Bradman stories, analyses, debates out there. So, to our listener, I say, go explore, read more, watch the footage, and come to your own conclusions about this truly fascinating figure. But before you do that,
Yes.
we have one more part to this deep dive. Stick with us. All right, we've talked about the man, the myth, the legend, but I think it's time to dig into the numbers a bit.
The stats.
Yeah, what was it about Bradman's batting that made him so statistically dominant? I mean, 99.94, that's not just good, that's like
Otherworldly.
bordering on superhuman.
That goes way beyond just scoring a lot of runs, though he certainly did that.
He did.
It's the rate at which he turned those runs into centuries, the consistency across decades against different opponents, different conditions.
That's crazy.
Mind-boggling.
So paint a picture for us. What made him different? Like on the field, what set him apart?
Well, look at his conversion rate. Over 36% of his test innings resulted in a century.
That's unheard of.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the double centuries, the triple centuries.
Yeah.
He racked them up faster than anyone in history.
Like he was playing a different game.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about getting to 100 runs. He was aiming for those massive scores that would demoralize the other team.
Oh, for sure. Like a psychological edge, too.
Absolutely. And his ability to score quickly without sacrificing consistency,
Yeah.
that's what's truly remarkable. The sources mention him scoring a century before lunch on the first day of a test match.
What?
That's not just good batting, that's pure aggression combined with precision, like a surgeon with a cricket bat.
I love that. It's almost like he was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
Great analogy.
Always thinking several moves ahead, dictating the flow of the game. And no wonder he was so successful.
And to really understand his dominance, you have to look at how statisticians have compared him to other sporting greats.
Okay.
They use standard deviations, how far an individual's performance is from the average.
Okay. ELI 5 for us non-statisticians.
Think of it like this. You've got a class full of students. Most of them cluster around the average grade, right?
Yeah.
But then you've got that one student consistently scoring way above everyone else. That's Bradman, but in the world of sports.
So we're not even just talking about cricket anymore. We're talking about all times across the board athletic dominance.
Exactly. Statistically, Bradman is more dominant in cricket than Pele in soccer, Ty Cobb in baseball, even Michael Jordan in basketball. That's how off the charts his numbers are.
It's hard to even wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, there was more to Bradman than just stats, right?
That's for sure.
He was an innovator, constantly refining his technique. The sources mentioned a distinctive grip, that cricket backswing that puzzled critics. But clearly worked for him. What was that all about?
Bradman was a master of adaptation, developed his style playing on those unique rough pitches of rural Australia. Later, he had to adjust to counter body line, and as he got older, his body changed, reflexes slowed, but he kept finding ways to stay ahead of the game.
Never rested on his laurels.
Never.
Always striving to improve. I guess that's what drove him to captaincy and even administration later on, right? It wasn't enough to just play the game. He wanted to shape it, too.
And his vision was clear. He wanted attacking, entertaining cricket, pushed for players who took risks, excited the crowds, played with a certain flair.
Interesting, because it almost contrasts with his own personality,
Yeah.
right? Which was more reserved, private.
It does, doesn't it? And speaking of shaping the game, can't overlook the controversy surrounding the cancellation of that South African tour in 1971.
Right, a decision that made him a hero to some, a villain to others. Adds another layer to this complex legacy, doesn't it?
Important to remember that Bradman's initial stance was to let the tour go ahead. Believed sport should be separate from politics.
Yep.
But his trip to South Africa, the conversations he had there, he clearly changed his mind.
Yeah.
Saw firsthand the injustice of apartheid and felt compelled to act.
And that action had huge repercussions. Severed cricketing ties with South Africa for years. Earned him praise from Nelson Mandela.
It shows the power of one person, even someone who wasn't naturally outspoken, to stand up for what they believe in, even when it's unpopular.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything. What's the final takeaway for our listener today?
I'd say this. Don Bradman's story is more than just cricket. It's a story about human potential, about resilience, about the power of striving for excellence in everything you do. A story that can inspire anyone, no matter what their field is, to aim higher, push harder, and leave their mark on the world.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So, to our listener, I say go out there, learn more, see what resonates with you in Bradman's incredible journey. Until next time, happy diving.